An earnest money deposit, EMD, is a fundamental part of any real estate transaction, and understanding its purpose and mechanics is critical for both buyers and sellers. Here's how I explain it, drawing from my experience as a top-producing, negotiation-focused realtor. An earnest money deposit is a sum of money that a buyer puts down shortly after their offer on a property is accepted. Think of it as a good faith deposit. Proof to the seller that the buyer is serious about moving forward with the purchase. This deposit is typically held in escrow account by a neutral third party, such as a title company, not by the seller directly. So the EMD shows serious intent. It signals to the seller that the buyer is committed, giving the seller confidence to take the home off the market and invest time in the transaction. It also protects both parties. If the buyer backs out for reasons not allowed in the contract, the seller may keep the EMD as compensation for lost time and opportunity. If the deal falls through due to agreed upon contingencies like financing, inspection, or appraisal issues, the buyer usually gets the deposit back. Now, the standard practice in competitive markets like Silicon Valley, in a competitive offer, an EMD will usually be 3% or higher of the purchase price. So how does it work? The typical amount of an EMD usually ranges in the 1% to 3% of the purchase price, but it can be higher in hot markets as mentioned. For the payment process, the buyer typically wires the funds or provides a cashier's check to the escrow holder within a few days of offer acceptance, often just one business day in Silicon Valley. Now, the application of it at closing. If the transaction closes, that EMD is credited towards the buyer's down payment or closing costs. And the process for refund or forfeit, if the buyer backs out for any reason covered by a contingency, the EMD is refunded. If the buyer defaults, the seller may keep the deposit. Now, from my perspective, as someone who's negotiated hundreds of deals, I see the EMD as both a psychological and financial lever. It's a tool to demonstrate commitment, strengthen an offer, and protect all parties. I always advise my clients to ensure the contract clearly spells out the conditions under which the EMD is refundable, and I make sure the funds are handled securely by a reputable escrow provider. A strong, well-structured EMD can be the difference between winning and losing a property, especially in competitive markets. But it's equally important to protect your interests with well-written contingencies and clear timelines. Once again, Keith Walker here to educate and navigate, not speculate and fabricate.